Welcome back to How You Slice It. Today, we're talking with Dave Howey. He is the franchisor of Nancy's Pizza in Chicago, which is a local chain that's now made that brand and that product available to other operators who want to participate and obviously control their own destiny and be part of the Nancy's Pizza brand and system. His story certainly doesn't start with Nancy's. Originally a pre-med student at Loyola, and his path took a turn when he happened to meet Nancy's co-founder, Rocco, one day in line for a slice. Not long after meeting, Dave opened up his own Nancy's at just 22 years old, and amazing. Nancy's remains a family business. It's being run by Dave and his whole family as they help him operate the business today. And in this episode, we'll talk about how he grew a mom and pop shop into the brand and thriving and growing franchise that it is today. I know this is an ambition that many operators have, and I'm looking forward to learning more about this. Welcome to How You Slice It, Dave.
I'm very happy to be here.
Before we get into the details of Nancy's, please tell us a little bit more about your background and how you ended up in the pizza industry.
It's an interesting story. I was a pre-med student at Loyola. I didn't make it into medical school the first time, and I had a choice of either going back to grad school or doing something else. And I've always had a passion for food, like many people that get into the restaurant industry. My little Italian grandmother, I used to cook in the kitchen with her, and it really was a passion. And I had met Rocco. I think it was my sophomore year at Loyola. His restaurant, Nancy's, had just opened, and it was picked the best pizza in the city of Chicago by Chicago Magazine. So a bunch of us went up to that restaurant, and we wanted to try it. And as we're standing in line, there was such a big line of people wanted to get in after that announcement. He would walk around with a tray of wine glasses to keep everybody in line so they didn't leave.
I love that.
And at some point during that, we had a little bit of, he asked, where are you from? And Rocco spoke very broken English. He was right from Italy. He'd only been here, a few years. And, I told him, we're from Loyola. We read about you. We came up here. So we went in, sat down. And I guess this is a little long story, but we sat down, and the next thing I know, Rocco's walking over to me with a lease, a building lease.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm in pre-med. So he comes up to me, and he basically puts it in front of me. He goes, would you please read this right here to me? So I read it to him, and says, thank you. He leaves. Next thing I know, we have a big giant platter of appetizers brought out to the table he bought for us. So we're a bunch of goofballs in college, we're like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
And so we enjoyed that, and that was it. Well, maybe a year later, I went back with some people, and he saw me, he recognized me, and he brought out another lease. And he said, would you read this for me? I said, okay. I read it. Another big platter of appetizers come out. So after I did not get into med school that first time, I thought, I'm going to go talk to Rocco. I'm 22 years old. I had big aspirations, puff my chest out, I want to do something. And I walked in, and he said, okay. And it was the most amazing moment, really, of my life, because I've been with Nancy's my whole life from that point on. And so he said, okay, and we put together another partner with myself, and I partnered with Rocco and his son initially, and we opened a restaurant in Oak Lawn, Illinois, extremely, extremely successful. 1978, we opened that, again, coming off of all the accolades of Nancy's being the best pizza in the city. It was still, 1976, 1977, it was still being written up, because nobody had seen a stuffed pizza before. He invented stuffed pizza in 1971, and it was at a little restaurant he called Guy's Pizza, and he wanted to be different. Rocco always wanted to be different. He was a fabulous cook. I mean, just really I don't know if you can really call him a chef. He specialized, in his cooking, but he was fabulous. The food was outrageous. And so I learned how to cook, the Nancy's products from him. And we partnered. And while we were there, I came back full circle to those days in college. And I said, when I sat down and you handed me that lease, why did you do that? Well, it turned out Rocco couldn't speak English well, and he couldn't read English. So people were telling him what that lease said, but he didn't believe them. So he wanted to pick somebody completely that wasn't associated with him to see if they were telling him the truth, which was very smart. So I didn't know it. I was the cheapest lawyer he ever had with 2 platters of appetizers. I mean, it was a great deal for him. And we became great friends. And we had bought Rocco out, my other partner and myself. We bought him and his son out. They wanted to do something else. And we operated the store for a long time. And I was very close with the family during that time. And right around 1989, Rocco was starting to have some heart problems. And in 1990, Nancy called me and asked me to pick him up at the hospital. They were getting him out after his 5th bypass surgery. And on the way home, he said, because I had asked, I said, look, I want to buy Nancy's. I want to start franchising. And this is his baby. He didn't want to do it. But on that drive home, he finally said, Dave, it's time, if you want to do it. So we worked out the deal in 1990, and we opened our first store in 1991 as a franchise and been slowly growing. We're not a real big chain, but our products are the exact same as they've been. We buy the same tomatoes, same flour, same cheese, same everything that we've done. We've been very true and loyal to those products, which makes us loyal to the customers.
And before we get into, Nancy's growth and I think some of the lessons that I'd love for you to share, Rocco, certainly an innovator in cooking, especially in the pizza industry. Describe the stuffed pizza. What made it? What makes it special, and what is it?
So in 1971, when he had opened Guy's Pizza, deep dish was really hitting its own. Lumo Notti's, was opening in the 70s. That was a spinoff from Uno's here in Chicago. Both great pizzerias, great products. And his friends wanted him to make a deep dish because he was only making a thin pizza at the time. And he never liked to copy. Rocco was one he was an innovator. I was blessed to be able to be side by side with him. And he wanted to do something different. So he had his family around Easter time made an Easter cake. And it was basically a big pie, very deep, but it was filled with ricotta cheese, Italian sausage, spinach, different things like that. It didn't have, any pizza sauce on it. So he took that, he kind of maneuvered it around. He came up with his own dough, his own sauce. So now you've got basically a pie, but that's got tomato sauce on the top. So it's got a top lid, but our top lid, it doesn't crisp up like a pie. It cooks kind of more like a noodle because you got the moisture from the sauce, but it separates the sauce from the ingredients on the inside. So when you cut it, you see a delineation of all your ingredients, the cheese, the sausage is all there, and then the sauce is on the top. And then with that, which, I'm sure, it tasted phenomenal, but it also creates a different eating experience because when you're eating into it, you can literally taste, instead of most pan pizzas, it's kind of like a stew of everything together. Mm-hmm. This, you can taste the layers, you can taste the sauce, you can hit the cheese, and you get a full, complete, tasting of everything that you've ordered. So it's a very unique product, and it is 2020, almost 2023, and we sell an awful lot of them. It's been copied across the nation. Stuffed pizza, the Giordano brothers, who were big here, and Giordano's is big in Chicago. The brothers that started that were pizza cooks of Rocco. In 1974, they were one of the first pizza cooks at his restaurant at the original Nancy's. And so everything kind of came from Rocco. And that happens with a lot of products, a lot of new things. But he never gave the recipe out. That was something that was tied in. And as his partner, every one of our restaurants were built with a spice room that could be locked. So, the first time I went into the restaurant, he brought me into the spice room. I had a key. He had a key. My partner had a key. And we go in and mix everything up the way we told him. And it was, he was very careful. You think about the lack of technology and all of this today. Our spices are made by spice companies. It's very scientific. With my background, I was very quantitative with chemistry and all those different things. I want to make sure everything was very precise. But a cup of this, a half a cup of that. Just like we used to, everybody used to do in the old days. A lot of people do today. But that's how it started. And again, we're kind of purists with what we do, and just keep bringing that tradition forward.
Dave, I speak to so many operators and chefs and pizza makers on this program, and the common theme in every episode of a successful operator or a successful entrepreneur in the industry is that they're not copying anybody else. They're very authentic, they're original, and all they're trying to do is be themselves and bring something about themselves to the world. And so I'm not surprised that the Nancy's story and success is grounded on just authenticity, which is awesome. In terms of some of those early days, what are some things that you look back today at your 22-year-old self and 23-year-old self? What are some of the things you wish you knew then that you know now?
I knew then?
Yeah.
Operating a restaurant. My first restaurant was a 300-seat restaurant, 40-seat bar.
Wow.
Massive carry-out and delivery business. I was 22, never stepped foot as an operator in a restaurant. Everything in the kitchen I learned from Rocco. Everything up front pretty much we had to learn. We had no computers. Everything was tickets by hand. I wish I had, the things we have today, back then. But being in that trench, being in the trenches, it was warfare. I mean, you're in the trenches and you're learning. You didn't have things to just depend on. If you wanted data, you better sit there at night and count up all the pizzas that you take each check and add them up, or put them on we didn't even have spreadsheets. First computer I ever bought, it was a floppy disk. Then they came out with a 10 megabyte hard drive, and you were a champ. So everything was on just pieces of paper. So some of that I wish we had, but at the same time, like I said, I learned the nuts and bolts of the restaurant business. We learned the hard way about taking inventory. We learned the hard way about portion control, and we didn't have a lot of that. Rocco was very much of a freestyle guy. Make the pizzas. And as I'm sure your listeners know, if they're in the industry, consistency is critical. And today, we have very high tech the abilities to make every pizza the same. We have very strict, guidelines and systems in place to do that. We didn't have that back then. It was very much freestyle. And again, that I wish we had that, because, that is in the food business, in any business, consistency is the key. So I don't, did I answer the question?
Yeah, of course. No, it's very helpful. You touched on consistency a little bit. Really, this is a two-part question. One is, it's awesome that Nancy's has now grown to about 30 plus locations. I'm assuming most are in and around the Chicago area, but perhaps not. Tell us a little bit more about that growth. And then if I wanted to be part of Nancy's, what do you look for in terms of new locations or operators? How do you determine whether you're willing to partner with somebody or not?
Well, that's the key question. Location has always been the buzzword in any industry, in any business. However, being only a chain of 30, I have plenty of locations. We're far from saturation, of Nancy's. The key is finding the right people. The success of Nancy's, 74% of our chain is original owners. And these are people that are really dedicated to what they do. They love the store. They're in their stores, or they have very strong management capabilities. And that's really the key. We can find locations. We can match. We have a corporate store in the West Loop in Chicago. It's a high density location. It does amazing numbers. My three boys run that store, and the locations are fine, but finding those people that are going to, number one, just give in to what we do. here's our recipes, here's our systems to put them, out to the public the same way every time. If I like a pizza, it's the one thing with the pizza industry. I see all your pizza boxes behind you. If you're in the pizza industry, it's a very tight relationship between the pizza store and the customer. When a customer finds a pizza that they love, that's their store. But if they come back and it's different every time, you're going to lose that. So having those systems in place, are great, but it requires a human being to be behind it and be a believer in that and be dedicated to that. I could have changed so many things with Nancy's. The thing that did it for me when I was young, again, I think having my chemistry and biology background was very good for this business. It's food, it's health, it's all that stuff is there. So I fit in really well. But I had no knowledge, so everything I was sucking up and learning, I was like in another college, and I'm watching all these customers come in for our product and coming back for the product, and there was a spark that said, I got to protect this product and keep it the same way, or these people aren't coming back. Well, that's what it was for me. Now find somebody that, hey, they just want to go on business. I got money. I'm gonna, I want to open a store here, and we can find the right locations. We know what to do. We have enough experience. We have stores in Chicago. The bulk of our stores are in the Chicago. 2/3 are up here. We have a bunch of stores in the Atlanta market. We have one store in the North Carolina, Raleigh market. We're looking to expand there. We want to expand in the right areas, but it has to be with the right people. And that's really the driving force for me right now. I've actually slowed up for the last few years. I've been very leery about, bringing in, the wrong people, because it's not good for them or us. They're going to invest a bunch of money, and all of a sudden, let's put a little extra oregano in something, or we want to, we have this other idea here. We love innovation. We're a high-tech company, internally, what we do with, computers and make tickets and all the different things. But, the core beliefs in the product and the meaning of, let me tell you something. It's a curse and a blessing to have a company like Nancy's, because if you're going to open Joe's Pizza, you can do anything you want. People are going to come in. You're going to get some that are going to like it, some that aren't. When you have a company that's 50 years old, we're going to be 50 years old. The first Nancy's opened in 1974. So in another year or so, we're going to be 50 years old. You have generations of people that have eaten our product. It better taste the same. It better taste the same. If they moved to Atlanta and they remembered it 20 years ago, human beings remember flavor. They remembered the taste.
Of course.
So it's our responsibility, and the people that open these stores in these areas to respect that and to say, we got to do the same thing. We're not going to cheat and bring in a cheaper cheese. We're not going to, bring in a cheaper tomato. We use high quality products. They're expensive. We charge. I would not consider us a cheap pizza by any means. We're a fair pizza for what we give people. And that requires respect from somebody that's going to open a store. And we can't be hit or miss on that.
Yeah, of course. And look, a franchisee would be getting 50 years of lessons and 50 years of experience. And
hey, let me tell you, I screwed up in the beginning a lot, and I think that really,
I believe you.
That's one of the benefits. Is like, I'm scared to death to do any of those things again. It's like, stop here. We're not going to do that. Let's stay the course, and we'll build up our clientele. We can do crazy marketing things but the product. Here's where we are.
Your sons built and operate the West Loop location. Your daughter is the corporate chef. Yes. I imagine.
And she's in there too, but the boys are the boys that are managing that store.
And tasked with, the consistency that you and quality that you speak of. And your wife, I believe, is the CTO.
Yeah. She's a tech genius. She's way overqualified for, but she's done, we just released our app, which we're very late doing that. We've been working on it for well over a year. But it's pretty cool. She did all the POS stuff, anything that has to do with IT. She was a computer programmer manager with Motorola, and she's very, very qualified. And like I said, overqualified here. But to have the opportunity at this time in our life to be able to work with our kids and, to bring these things that I met my wife at my first restaurant. That's
Really?
where I met.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And, so we've been in this thing a long time. And I think that mutual respect and pride in what we've done and the ability to bring these products to people, in different parts of the country. And, being able to say at this time, 74% of our chain is original owners, these guys, everybody, all of our owners are they're dedicated, they're good people. And, they have that spark where they want that customer to be proud and happy with what we do. So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win. And it seems like it's a, family business, through and through. I imagine those family values that you bring to the corporate level are reflected in how the franchisees and the partners are operating their businesses as well.
Yeah, I mean, we try our best for that. Again, we're a small chain, but that was by design. All my boys played. My daughter was a nationally ranked figure skater. My boys all played, high level AAA hockey. So, we were traveling with them. We were always with them on things. So we were opening stores at a very modest pace. It was a family business, and everybody we brought in, we don't like to be on top of them. I'm an operator. I'm a person that owned my own restaurants. We still do, and we wanted them to know that we're there if they need us, but run your restaurant. As long as they're buying what we were buying, they're making the product right. And today, I'll tell you, it's I had mentioned this, many times to people. Social media, has basically become the test market. If we see a store that's starting to get, social media issues with, things, and we've had a few, it's like those are our mystery shoppers. I used to have to pay mystery shoppers to go into stores, 2, 3, 4 times a month. And now we don't have to do that. Social media lays it out, and that our store owners can see, we screwed this up, or, oh my gosh, we had to apologize and we didn't know. And, it's scary, social media when it started. I'm an older guy, it's like, what is all this? But it's really beneficial. And if you embrace it, and you listen to your customers, it helps them, it helps the store, and it helps everybody to be what we want to be.
And you know what I've learned as well? I'm excited for you to launch your app and we do this at Slice very well for, the smaller sort of independent brand pizza shops. What we learned was that consumers are much more willing to leave feedback if they know that it's going straight to the owner or the operator. And so now as your consumers use the app to order from the various 30 plus locations that are, Nancy's locations, you can give them access to leave a review, but that's not going to be published, publicly on the app. It's just going to be feedback for the owner about their experience. And the moment we realized that consumers knew that their feedback would just go straight to the owner and it wouldn't be published, to the public, and it wouldn't hurt the business in some really big way, it unlocked a lot of value. So something for you to consider, which is how do you give all your app customers or digital customers an avenue to leave feedback in real time, and then you aggregate all of that into one database, and you learn really.
Encourage them to do it. I agree. We want to hear it. We want to hear it. Our store downtown in the West Loop, it's extremely. As a matter of fact, DoorDash lists us as the #1 pizza sold by DoorDash in Chicago. So that's how big it is.
Okay.
And there's some screw ups. I mean, once you put green pepper instead of pepperoni, and something happens in the system. But we give people a quart of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. We give them a credit. Sorry, that's what it takes to. You always have every day. You have to prove to the consumer that you're worth their business. And as we've lived through this inflation and everything else, people's money it's always important to people, but they want to know that if they're going to give you money, that first of all you appreciate it and you'll bend over backwards to make sure they get what they expect. And that's the bottom line for this. I mean, that's what we're in. We're in the service business. I tell everybody we are the servants of our customers, and we have to treat it that way. But yeah, the social media end and the app end, yes, encourage people to give us feedback directly is very valuable.
I love that. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, mistakes will happen. I'm a big advocate of operators. I have a lot of empathy. Sometimes a customer will get really upset if their order is like 5 or 10 minutes late on a Friday night. And what I tell them is go sit at a pizza shop on a Friday night and tell me what it's like before, you know what I mean? So I think there's,
and throw about 8 inches of snow on the ground on top of it. So
Exactly. So look, a lot of people aspire to build a brand and a presence as great as Nancy's. And I know you've grown relatively slowly and deliberately, but 30 locations is nothing to. It's a lot of locations, a lot of operators, a lot of volume. For folks who want to aspire to reach that level, what is some advice that you can provide to them? Would you advise them to go down that path? Like, what are some of the trade-offs between staying, a single 1 or 2 location brand versus taking the franchise route?
Yeah, it's different. It's very different business. Today I spend most of my time, with looking at leases, product issues. The last couple of years with product issues have been brutal. Factories shut down. Things like French fries you can't get, for 6 months. I mean, there's so many of those things behind the scenes that we do for our stores. So being in the store, I still love being in the kitchens. When we open stores, I love to be there. I love to be in the kitchens, help, training and watching things. But from this office, the things that those stores need, most of the time they don't even see what we're doing. But I'm on the phone personally. I'm on the phone a lot with food distributors. What's happening with the tomato market? We're contracted through June of next year, and they're not giving out contracts right now. Mm. With all the weather issues they've had. There's so many things, and these are all things that you have to be ahead of the game on. Dealing with the stores. So my point there is, if you're going to get into, first of all, if you're a multi-unit operator, your skill set goes from running a store and taking care of customers to taking care of your managers and managing, it becomes geometrically more difficult to run 2 stores, 3 stores, 4 stores than just one. Well, it's the same thing with being a franchisor. Your roles in the hat you're wearing are completely different. Every day we have stores, we got this problem, we have that problem. And it's normal. I mean, the same problems I've had, it's probably the thing that keeps me in. I don't know if I'm just a glutton for punishment or what, but every day I wake up and I'm excited because it's an energy, it's an action business, the restaurant industry, and things happen. So solving them is the key and not running away from them. So we have a franchise system that we want our stores to be independent. We want them to really own their business. And if they struggle, last week I was on the phone with one of our stores. They're struggling with some things. COVID really hurt them, with the financial end of it. They had a dining room, they had to shut down, struggling to find, employees. I'm sure you've heard it, on and on and on. So you have to be, and I don't say this lightly, you have to kind of be a camp counselor as opposed to, active in the camp. You're helping people. You're talking to them. Bringing them down off of a cliff when they're ready to jump, because these things happen. And I've been there. There's been times it's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? 1980s, we were paying 22% interest on, we just opened a second store, 22% interest at a bank. You're ready to jump off a cliff. Wow. I mean, right? So you go through all those ups and downs, and pretty soon store owners realize, hey, I really love this. I love making the food and giving it to the customers. And if I got somebody that I can call and help with these other things, that really takes the pressure off me. So if somebody wants to get into that, that's what they have to choose to be. They have to be there for that. We're probably less proactive. Like I said, we depend on, feedback from customers and things. If we see a problem, we're on it. If there's a complaint that comes in, we send it to the stores, we talk about it. But we want them to feel independent, because I was independent. Again, I'm not some bean counter that came in and bought the company. I lived in the kitchen. I understand. I had to make dough at 3 a.m. because we ran out. So I get what they're going through, and it's a different business. So again, your question, if they want to go that route, be prepared for different things. You have to be that person that's going to be behind those store owners and help them when they need help. If they don't need help, let them go. And that's what I do. I got store owners, I'll talk to them, but guys, you're doing a great job. Your sales are going up. Your reviews are unbelievable. Keep going. They don't want to see me. They want to do their own thing. They want to know their customers know them as their owner of Nancy's. That's what they want. They become the face of Nancy's, and that's what I'm really happy about. If we have some people that are not quite there on that, we have long talks, and then it becomes a different story.
Safe to say it's sort of this transition from being a pizzeria operator to a support system and a platform that empowers pizzeria operators. That's sort of the shift, correct?
Yes. And I see a lot of, we've had several people come into our system that are in systems that are on them constantly with everything. And it blows my mind, but there are many people that like that. They want somebody on top of them all the time. We're kind of different in that, we give them all the tools, and we check up, we do what we have to do, but we're not on them all the time. I don't give them, 4 hours, a week of reports they got to hand right back to us. I want you spending that 4 hours with your customers. Go get more business. Go to the churches and go do the things that you're going to bring customers for the PTA, from the local fire departments. That's where they need to be. So again, my thinking, I'm an old guy. Okay, I just turned 67, and I'm going to be 68 years old in a few months. And so my thinking's a little different. And my thinking is not all about just the money side. It's about giving and getting back, because you do the right things for those customers and they appreciate it. And they need the time to do that. So it's a little different philosophy, and it's not right for everybody. But for us, the guys that we have, keep saying guys, we have many women and men, involved in everything we do.
Guys and girls, yep.
All the guys.
Yeah.
I think it's important to them, and they wouldn't stay around so long if they didn't like something.
How would the consumer describe Nancy's? What do you hope are the ways that a consumer would very briefly describe Nancy's and their experience with Nancy's?
One of the things that I do, and we have 2 corporate stores. One's a carryout only, and one's a full service. If I'm in the carryout store, I like to answer phones. And when I do, I hear what they order. They'll talk to me a little bit, because I'll ask certain questions. And it's amazing the consistency is, this is our favorite pizza. And, when I come in, there's, this person's so friendly and this person's so friendly. You realize how emotionally tied people are. I don't know if people are that emotionally tied to a burger. I don't know if they're that emotionally tied, to a seafood restaurant. They might love it, but something about pizza, and pizza operators have to understand that there is an emotional tie there. It's like, that's my go-to pizza. You don't hear that's my go-to burger.
Right.
You don't hear that too often. In Philadelphia, maybe you got your go-to Philly cheesesteak, or in Chicago, your go-to Italian beef, but it's not the same passion as pizza. And so operators have to understand that emotional tie is important, and you're going to lose face if they lose trust in you. Everything you can do to keep the trust, from the product quality to the service quality, staying open the right same hours, having the availabilities for all your services, all of that goes to the win for the business and for the consumer. And if they have that win, they're going to be loyal. So what do my customers? I think they like that, we do our best to be on time. We do our best to make that product right. And for the most part, our stores do succeed at that. And that's the game. That's the game.
That's a great way to leave things off. Dave, this has been just a great conversation and such an amazing lesson in what it takes to go from a 22-year-old customer of a pizza shop to now an owner and operator of a thriving 30-plus location brand. Thank you so much for the time you spent today, and can't wait to watch Nancy's reach store 100 in the near future.
Well, it's with our team now. We're ready.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Thank you. This was wonderful.